allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Jason Tron.
Here.
Julie Simpson.
Here.
Victoria Helander-Heiser.
Here.
Julie. Robin Cleek. Here. Wes Poland. Here. Matt Jacobs.
Here.
Sonali Fonto.
Here. All board members are present. Does anybody from the public wishes to comment?
Oh, geez.
You good? You okay?
Hi everyone, my name is Mary Catherine Tyson. I go to Aspen in Mrs. Kirby's kindergarten class.
Very good.
I'm here to ask permission if all our schools can make pictures and give them to me so I can give them to our grandma and grandpa friends in the Victory Center to spread joy and happiness. Thank you for letting me talk. Do you have any questions for me?
Good job.
I can't
Mom may have helped with the script.
I can't speak for everybody, but I think that's a great idea.
That is a good
Yes.
idea. Thank you. I love
Thank you.
that.
So on behalf of the board, you have our permission.
Yes, we're
And-
happy to help in any way we can.
Yes.
And I'll make sure that my son at Aspen makes a picture.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks,
Thank
Mary.
you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Good job.
Nice job.
Okay, I'm going to sing again.
And she's the only one to get an immediate response.
Oh, wait, sorry. Never mind.
That cute to get a response.
That's wonderful.
Anybody else wishes to comment?
Follow that, Mike.
You tired?
You know the drill, name and address.
Michael Shank, 587 Central Park, Vernon Hills. On behalf of the families and friends of Hawthorne District 73, we want to thank the entire community in the district for getting informed during the process leading up to last week's election. 57% of the voters said yes to the building bonds referendum. To those who voted yes, and even those who voted no, we just want to extend our gratitude to the community. Everyone who listened to the information, debated the information, offered input, supported, and even opposed the plan at times all deserve a thank you. Not only was the information communicated at school board meetings, it was communicated out in the community as a whole. I can attest to the fact people were having conversations all over town, from the grocery store aisles to the youth sporting events to the library. This goes to show, as long as the information being delivered is accurate and transparent, the community will decide what they feel is important. We also want to extend our thanks to the school board and administration who have all worked tirelessly getting the information out to the community. I believe they did their best to try to accommodate everyone's schedules to give as many folks the platform to discuss the information being delivered. We also want to thank the teachers and staff in our schools. They know firsthand of the overcrowding and have worked very diligently over the last few years to accommodate the students in order to minimize the impact on learning. As of November 6th, help appears to be on the way. But anything worth doing doesn't come without obstacles. The two questions on the ballot were always designed to work together. Unfortunately, the second question did not pass, so more work will be needed. We implore the board to find a way to make the best decisions moving forward for our students, teachers, and parents. We assume the discussions are likely to start tonight, so it's extremely important to maintain full transparency throughout this process. There is no substitute for an involved community. Whether you were for the plan or against the plan, the debate over the last 8 months has truly brought the community closer together. Allowing the people in the district to discuss and debate the facts and to give them a platform to show that their opinion matters in the discussion. That's how you build a community, and I, for one, am proud to live in the village of Vernon Hills and District 73. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mike.
Mike.
Very well said.
So, anybody else from the public wishes to comment? Okay. There's a recognition, there's none scheduled, but on behalf of the board, I would like to recognize the friends and families of Hawthorne 73. We are 7 of us and the administrative team, and we could have done a lot, but we couldn't have reached as many people as all the volunteers and people that the friends and family had in getting the word out and educating everybody. I have a few names with me whom I'd like to thank personally, and I know I'm missing a few, even the kids who were out doing the door hangers in the rain. Everybody, every person who talked to another one and asked, do you know about the referendum? I want to thank them because you did help educate and spread the word around. I want to thank even our critiques who actually asked the tough questions and helped us give the answers in many different ways so that we could inform them. So some of the people I'd like to thank, or we would like to thank, are Mike and Vanessa Schenk, Katie Agam, Sam Burstmeyer, Lauren and Vahe Avian, Terry McRae, Julie Landruff, Elissa Gong, Katie Sultan, Andy Fiska, Jessica Chrisvicki, Wendy Ullman, Tim Burt, Heather Rabbit, Heather Brown, Maureen Collier, Margaret Clark, Angela Bang, Krisha Vaswani, Cassia Olson, Becky Mendoza, Mark and Shara Center, Stacy Hubbard, Becca Ferraro, Carl Boschers, and Joel Finfer. I know I've missed out a lot of people. If I went through, there would be many, many people, but these were some that I saw again and again and came in contact with, who contacted us in one form or another. But there were many of you, and we, on behalf of all of us, thank you so much. I also want to thank some of our staff who went above and beyond what was required of them. I want to thank Dave Hunwick for especially doing our website. From me bugging him on his day off and he working when he was sick, thank you so much for putting up with that, Dave. I want to thank our tech department, Dimitri, Andy, and Wayne, for putting up the projectors and taking those things down every time we had meetings and making sure that our audio was. To Leslie for getting all the word out whenever you could. I want to thank our teachers who came out and explained their reality to everybody. To Mr. O'Brien, Ms. Greenwell, Sam Harmeo, Millie Naughton, the dual language teachers who canvassed in the rain on the last weekend, Lupi Raznowski, and so many others who helped in all the other ways. And I want to thank, most importantly, I want to thank Abe, because explaining the 3 graphs again and again and again to different people or the same graph to the same people is not an easy task. But thank you so much for your patience and being there for us throughout the process. So thank you, everybody, and to our interims for taking us through this on behalf of the board, all of us. Thank you so much, the community. And we will do our best with the trust you've given us as we move forward.
Agreed.
Anybody else want to add anything?
Thank you, Sonali, for your leadership throughout the process. Sonali, did you hear me? Thank you
Sonali.
for your leadership throughout
Yes.
the process.
You're welcome.
Thank you for
Your
driving the
family's gonna
ship.
Get a home-cooked meal now.
I don't know about that.
What's that?
Don't make any promises.
Yeah, who are you talking about? Next is presentation by Dimitri. It's an update on technology, software usage, and Chromebook insurance.
Excuse me.
Good afternoon, or evening at this point. At the last board meeting, actually a couple of board meetings ago, you guys had asked me to update board on status of our personalized learning experience, specifically Chromebook software and the insurance that's associated with district and students using the Chromebooks. So to start, I'd like to kind of reintroduced and remind everybody the three major pieces of software that we're using in conjunction with our initiative are Securely, which we're using for internet filtering, Hapara, which we're using for student management and classroom management, and Gaggle is our internet safety and student incident monitoring software. Gaggle is responsible for content analysis. It's machine learning technology combined with actual human review of any potential student-related incidents, harmful content in the email documents, any shared documents, and artificial analysis of the imaging. Gaggle provides us not only with computer-based review, which is present in many companies, but also the benefit of them is that they have a human component that is a trained staff that monitors incidents, and based on severity of the incidents, which I will review later, escalates it to district content and to police if necessary. So this is just to give you some of the idea of the incidents that we've had since the beginning of this year. And if you take a look at the graph on the right, we've had 27 violations, which are, considering our student base, is not that many. So I think we're fortunate enough in our professional development, in our digital citizenship, that's the students are going by. 27 violations that could be anything from suspect images or false alerts, but something that had to be addressed by Gaggle and by our personnel. That leads to 9 QCon incidents, and QCons are questionable content, not an immediate threat to a student, but cause for concern and brought to an emergency contact's attention. Our middle school principals, their assistant principals, and superintendent's designee are on a 24-hour watch for those kind of incidents. And when they escalate, those are the contacts that have to address the issue before Gaggle lets go of it. We do not have any PSSs, which is a possible student situation. That's an immediate threat to a student, including student-produced pornography, violence, suicide, self-harm, bullying, rape, or harmful family situations. So in that respect, we are very fortunate that we do not have that. But to my knowledge, within last year, one of the surrounding schools did have an incident that Gaggle was able to intercept and assist family and student in a very critical situation. This is the same statistics from the first year, and of course we went through a full year with 165 violations that had to be addressed by administration, and 26 violations of a little bit more serious nature.
Dimitri, I can't see, but there's no P in even in the last full year, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct. That is correct. Which brings us to the next tool, online protection at school, classroom, at home. We're utilizing a company called Securely. They keep a SIPA-compliant Child Internet Protection Act. It ensures safety on social media, search engines, maintains access to an age-appropriate internet, and currently we're utilizing that at school and filtering Chromebooks at home based on your guys' decision on how we're going to engage in our personalized learning initiative. For the usage graph, just about every access that students conduct on their Chromebooks is monitored. This graph represents our internet usage since the beginning of the year. As you can see, it is heavy, and this is the amount of information we're monitoring. Our internet pipe is about 1 gig to the district, something we're hitting the roof over in some of the months. So that's something that we'll be potentially looking at investigating whether or not we need more internet bandwidth. And of course, Securely will keep protecting it no matter how many gigs of internet we bring into the district. And last but not least, Hapara. Hapara is a classroom management tool. To quote their marketing department. Hapara is dedicated to providing best-in-class instructional management for K-12 teachers, learners, and administrators who wish to organize, manage, and monitor learning with help of technology. The goal of this software is to encourage and simplify collaboration opportunities between students and teachers, and this system sits on top of our learning management system and is kind of one of the pieces of the puzzle that make interaction between students, our technology, and teachers possible. This spring, we had reviewed the usage of Hapara. We started with a full-blown pilot that allowed us to test all of the features of Hapara. Different teachers took part in different portions of the software. This last spring, we had reviewed the usage and decided to keep only the portion that's called Hapara Teacher Dashboard and Highlights only. That allowed us to maintain our previous year costs. Actually, they're a little bit less. But obviously this year, because we're no longer subject to the pilot, we had to pay full fee for the use of that option. Just a little bit statistics on Hapara usage. I got a very pleasant comment from the account representatives saying that Hawthorne 73 had adopted Hapara at the rate in the top 10% of the school districts around the world. Some of the usage statistics that you will see in the packet, you have to keep in mind that this is a concurrent sessions. So how many simultaneous sessions we have used throughout the district. And the 121 registered teachers include our non-core teachers, coaches, PE, music, people that on a day-to-day basis probably would not engage with electronic classroom management. So the combination of this 54 and 18% is actually higher by the time you consider the actual people that we would expect to be using the software in the classroom. Ongoing costs of our tools is currently our Gaggle safety management contract is about $8,000. Hapara Teacher Dashboard is $5,600, and Securely had been paid up until 2020 under Illinois State Board of Education contract. Which brings us to the next subject, Chromebook repairs. This is the first full year that we had completed and collected the Chromebooks from students. And our current guidelines for repairs and fixing of the units is that the district makes determination whether break is eligible for Dell warranty or a supplemental insurance that parents purchase. And big thanks to the tech department and everybody that helped us. We had to pitch the insurance about 800 times this summer giving out Chromebooks, and we've had a very good participation rate. So based on that decision, then we issue the loaner and conduct the repair once we figure out what insurance we're going to use. If repair is not covered by either plan and it is a student responsibility, we still issue the loaner, we conduct a repair and charge the student for repair cost via PowerSchool and our billing system. Administration is able to adjust the procedure as circumstances arise, for example, income status, discipline, whether or not it's a loaner. So there's still some individual cases. Some of them are procedural, some of them are, like I mentioned, income-based. It is not frequent. Based on our experience with students using the Chromebooks for a little bit over a year, we've started the program based on assumption that we're going to collect the units. Over our experience with collecting the units, we would like to make a recommendation for you guys to consider to change what we do during the summer. We would like to allow the students to keep their units, and that would promote educational use over the summer. Specifically not having to reissue the units for summer school, AGI, or any summer learning that may still be happening. Some of the issues that we incurred was collecting the units is battery drainage and potential damage over the summer months when they're idling in storage. And also the significant overhead and costs that are required in storing, moving, cleaning, and redistributing the units. Even just with the space and ability to store the units in a dry, secure facility throughout the district. We shut down AC, so finding that space is a premium. In addition, due to our high participation in optional insurance, we would like for you guys to investigate the possibility of $25 raise in technology fee for a mandatory insurance of the device by the students. Right now, it's optional. We do have relatively high participation, so that's something that you may want to consider is change from a $75 to a $100 change. Thank you very much for allowing me to make this update, and I would entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Questions for Dimitri?
Any questions?
I have a question. Regarding Gaggle, so if there's questionable content, then is it the principal that's notified? Is it the teacher?
It's usually, a student is usually copied, and then depending on the severity, assistant principal would get engaged in the first category, which were the violations.
Okay.
And then if QCon happens, that immediately goes to assistant principal and the principal
Okay.
for review. And if the nature is that potential student situation, depending on the situation, if it's student harm or if it's a community safety issue, police will get engaged.
Okay. Is
If-
this, I mean, do the administrators have the ability, to, like, disable the Chromebook or, until the matter is handled, or is it just an alert that goes? to them?
They're usually notified of the incident, and
Okay.
then if we need to revoke the Chromebook or block the Chromebook or do something with access, we usually do it based on their recommendation. Up to this point, we've had quite a fair amount of incidents that we would investigate that don't even make this list, but we have not had any severe actions that we had to engage based on the
Okay.
Gaggle recommendation, fortunately.
I had several questions. First of all, between these three subscriptions, are there any redundancies in what they do, or are all three truly necessary as far as monitoring what our students are doing and who's able to contact them and all that stuff?
With Hapara, if we were to keep our full package, the one we piloted in the beginning of the year, yes, there's some overlaps, overlapping portions, but we've only renewed the portion that deals with a direct classroom management. So I would say no.
Okay. I know you mentioned that we're SIPA compliant, and again, I don't know where the overlap is between SIPA and COPA, but does making us SIPA compliant mean that we don't have to be COPA compliant? Because they're a little bit different. I know that one refers to whether you're receiving an eBate, which I believe we did when we got these Chromebooks. What are we doing about being COPA compliant with these?
I think depending on the specific nature of the law we're trying to follow, COPA is probably a little bit broader.
Right, but
And
we
then-
have students younger than 13 signing on to these websites, so I just want to make sure, like, who's approving their use?
If it's directly related to curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
district acts as an agent in case of COPA, and don't quote me exactly on a COPA knowledge, but that's previously when we've looked at minors accessing websites. district acts as an agent because it's a mandatory software that they have to use as a part of a curriculum.
So, and you can stop me if I'm going beyond your scope here, but then what liability does that expose us to?
This is a little bit outside of filtering because specifically with securely. Securely doesn't address that. Securely addresses the information that students are accessing. It doesn't make a determination, or you shouldn't be signing that. That's more in our policy. And in terms of liability, any major vendors that we engage as our current practice, and the memo that I think you guys received from Nick and a little bit later from Abe, we have agreements with them, and most that our lawyers had signed and say, you know, you have to do certain things to protect student privacy, and followed by our policy, our handbook policy, and COPA.
Okay.
And they also have their own agreements that we review for any
Sure.
red flags.
Okay. If we did decide to let the students keep them over the summer, I understand the difficulty with storage and management and the inefficiencies of reissuing them and stuff like that. But then what's it going to cost us in these units being used more heavily? How much faster are they going to burn out? And I don't mean the battery. I understand what you're saying about the battery life. But how much faster are we going to burn through these Chromebooks if the students have them over the summer? And if there is an issue that pops up, how do they get a room repaired? Do they bring them to the district office over the summer? Like, how does that get addressed? And how are these interactions being monitored? You know, principal, vice principal, whatever, if they're on vacation or if they're off, who's monitoring this over the summer?
Those are the questions that, if we decide to go down the road, we definitely would have to address, specifically the monitoring, who in district, the software does not stop. Gaggle would not stop, filtering would not stop, but we would have to make a decision on our end, who would be the agents acting on behalf of our
Right.
Human review. To address the question about physical damage, I think we have to take a look at that. We've had some issues with Chromebooks just sitting there. It is a somewhat known issue that we've been addressing with Dell on a battery failure. So we're weighting those against potential damage from the use, and we would address that in a similar fashion that we would during the school year, but probably with a little less urgency. If a student is taking summer school, if a student is taking a course, we would obviously make more provisions like we did
Sure.
last summer. If it is non-critical damage, our main goal is obviously to ensure that students start with functioning Chromebook in the beginning of a year. So we will have a bring in your Chromebook, some kind of check before the school starts that will give us time to collect the units and have them serviced prior to the beginning of the
Oh,
school year.
goodness.
If I could shed a little light just from experience.
Sure.
We had a one-to-one experience in my former district. We had the same issue.
Mhm.
At first, we didn't allow the kids to take them home for all the same reasons that I'm sure you've talked about. And one summer, we decided to bite the bullet and let it happen because we were hearing more and more from our students how important it was. And believe it or not, we monitored it very carefully. We had less repairs and problems the year after letting them take them home in the summer than we did when we were collecting them. I don't know technologically, Dimitri, but there's something about having them be in use was somehow better for the life of the computer than stopping them, shutting them down. The batteries aren't going. We got better, a little bit longer use out of them once we started doing that.
It makes sense. Some technology works
Right.
better that way than sitting idly. I get it. It's like my oven. It's not going to work. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions for Dimitri?
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks. Thank you very
Dimitri.
much.
Nice job, Dimitri. Thanks.
The next is the post-referendum discussion. You want to do that, or do you want to do the finance first?
I think Abe wanted to do the
The
finance.
finance. You wanted to do it.
You can see he's just jumping right out of his seat there.
So the next presentation is the resolution regarding the final amounts necessary to be levied for year 2018.
We're doing the levy first?
Or we want to do this first? We could do this
It's
first,
up to you.
whichever one you want. Let's go with this first since you have it up.
Okay.
Okay, just a discussion post-referendum on our finances so we can all recall how we got to the two questions to begin with, specifically the second question. Now, within our current operations, this is a graph of our fund balance. It's the net of expenditures minus revenues over time of our operational funds. And this is not new information. We have a negative trajectory of about $1.7 million a year. We've got a budget this year that reflects the red for fiscal year ending 2019, getting us to about $29.3 million. Knowing that we have this embedded deficit within our current operations, we're also aware of future liabilities, expenditure liabilities that will be forthcoming. If you look at our enrollment projections, we know we'll need about 2 to 3 teachers additional full-time equivalents per year. We do know that, as in this past year, that the average benefits have increased by 4.7%. If you recall, the PPO increasing by 7.8% last year. Our copiers are as good as long as a maintenance service company will service them. And so we're kind of on borrowed time with those. We're 2 years beyond the recommended replacement. Perhaps we can get an additional year out of that. Notwithstanding the Apple lease payments were finished last year, but we do know that we want a stable lease payment year in and year out to cover all devices within the district, be it Chromebooks or staff devices. So that's something we know that is also lurking in the future. And you're also aware that this is the first year that folks can put in for their 4 years of 6% increases. So that's a financial, liability. But in fiscal year 2022, 2023, there will be not a windfall, but there will be less expenditures related to the final fourth year of the 6%ers retiring at that year. And beyond that, we also have the EFMP. And even if we started the EFMP immediately going out to bid in January, it would not open. It wouldn't open in the fall of 2019, 2020. It'd be 2021. And so it would be fiscal year 2021, 22, where these, fiscal year ending 2021 would be the first year where the kindergarten operational costs would then be applied to our budget, keeping in mind that $750,000 of those estimated operational costs are staffing elements. And in light of the second question not passing, we'll have to reassess those staffing needs and our capacity to fill those positions within the current budget and the current personnel as much as possible. So that's something we're going to take a hard look at internally. And then applying about $150,000 a year for each subsequent phase, primarily utilities, operational costs associated with those additions.
Wait, I'm sorry, Abe, can you go back? Because I was taking notes when you said something about the annual tech device lease program. I was taking notes on something else, I missed it.
Mm-hmm.
The parentheses of 1-to-1 at K-5. What's that about?
So that that's an additional future expenditure that the board may want to address at some point. We do know the curriculum. If it's textbooks, they cost money as well. It's a goal that we have, I believe. It may not be in the near term, but it's something. It's a bullet point that it's out there. If we ultimately decide to go district-wide 1-to-1, it would come at a cost as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's correct. So focusing in, again, graphically at our fund balances related to the operational funds, the red represents our cash reserve. Now that's an important number. That's our low point every May. We want to avoid short-term borrowing to not have to borrow money in the month of May to make payroll. And back in June, you recall a number of reasons we decided not to expend our fund balance as it relates to Building Sullivan. It included things such as not having to borrow in the month of May, a contingency for the EFMP. It's a 5-year phase-in with construction costs fluctuating. We wanted that capacity. There's also contingency if the second question didn't pass. We wanted to make sure we had reserves to absorb some of that initial expending until some of the deficit spending trajectory could be reversed. Also, we need contingency if a pension cost shift occurs, property tax freeze occurs, or if there is a delay or a proration in state funding, as there has been experienced within this district. We wanted to not reduce our credit rating, which would increase the interest costs when we issue bonds if we had expended that. And finally, there's interest earned on this money as well. About $300,000 a year is yielded from $13.1 million for us. So that's another plus as it relates to why we didn't expend all of our cash reserves on Sullivan. So it buys us time, buys us capacity to address some of this deficit spending, to address the needs of the future. Even deficit spending for the next 4 years, $3 million a year. We've bought ourselves a few years to address this internally. And as far as timeline next steps, again, with Sullivan costs coming in line in July 2020, budget year 2020, 2021, we've bought ourselves a couple of years before that hits. We'll need to revise our 5-year financial projections based upon the current knowns and define what our reduction goals are specifically per year. We need to know what that goal is. Previously, we had defined it as $2 million built in, knowing that that's something that this district had to address, knowing that if we construct these facilities at another $1.3 million, that $3.3 million total would be a true burden on the district, and that's why we had asked that second question. But again, what's different now from a year ago, we didn't spend down that cash reserve fund balance, which has bought us some time to work with our administrative team, our staff, the financial advisory task force. We need to develop a cost reduction strategy, define the current state of operations. We need to look at our program mapping and ultimately define and prioritize these offset costs. Our recommendation is that we proceed with finalizing the Sullivan Kindergarten construction documents and preparing it to go through permit. We recommend that we finalize site work with our partners at the village, the intergovernmental agreement that we have with the park district, as well as the library, with whom we're sharing a parking lot that they would very much like to build in the near term. We would also want to incorporate all of the value engineering items that were discussed from the first bid. And it is also recommended we proceed with bidding in January of 2019 with the Sullivan Kindergarten facility.
So do you want to have a discussion and then have questions all together, or does anybody have just questions for Abe right now? Based on
This is a reasonable approach, folks. And we've talked this through, and it's not rash jump in and let's see if we can fix everything right away. It's a very reasonable approach. Buys time down the road, and we'll see just the unknown, where these bids are going to come in too. Big unknown.
So one of the questions I had for you, Abe, is between our priorities of building the Sullivan Center and the Middle North. The Sullivan Center is the recommendation, right, for the AT team as well as you, because that is something that we can start, because if we go out for bids for any documents, we'd be 1 year plus out more, right? Because we already have these documents made up, right?
The design is 95% substantially complete with the architectural and engineering documents. Even if we wanted to reprioritize and do Middle North first, it takes a year for us to design a building. That's what it takes this district. The entire process, soup to nuts, that would put us out an additional year.
Okay.
And if we comply with the current plan, we would have to start the design services in January to be able to adhere to that phase-in schedule over the 5 phases.
And the second half of your question was, do Mark and I, are we all on the same page?
Yeah.
We've had great discussions. We totally support this approach. The kindergarten center was first on our priority list, and we really see nothing that's changed. And it's also the one activity that's going to make the most immediate impact on space once it's built. So we feel really strongly that we proceed with that. And then, as Abe said, and as Mark said, we have time then to look really carefully, diligently, deliberately at the deficit. And it's our job as an administrative team to look at everything. No sacred cows, everything's out there. And we'll come back to you with priorities and rationale, and then we'll have a nice discussion about it.
So question on the 5-year projection. Would it be possible, I'm hoping the answer is yes, we haven't seen this before in terms of direction from the board. So you kind of provide the 5-year projection. Here's what we think, based on information we know today, best information. Here's our projection in terms of income. Here's our projection of expenditures, and this is where we're going to end up with how much deficit spending or surplus we have. But the direction has not come from the board in terms of what if the board says we want a 5-year projection based on no deficit spending. In other words, we want a balanced budget for the next 5 years. What are our options? What does that imply? What programs have to change? What are we going to give up? What do we get to keep? Those are some of the questions that we typically don't get when we see the projections. We just kind of see, yep, this is where we might be. This is where we might have to spend on. I'd like to see something where the board says you can only deficit spend for 1 more year. Everything else after that's flat, or no more deficit spending. That's kind of the big picture that the board should give you. And then you look at the number and say, all right, if you guys want no deficit spending, or if you want actually surplus spending to build up that fund balance, reverse that trend of that red line going down, balanced budget is flattening it. What if we want to say we want it to increase now? We want some surplus spending so that we can build up some reserve. What does that mean for the district? So is that something that we can get in order to make decisions going forward? Some thoughts.
That would be our tier cuts, right? That would be,
Yep.
if you have tiered level cuts, when you start with 1, 2,
Yeah,
3, where you're going to land up at.
Yeah, at a high generic level, it'd be pretty straightforward to tell you, we're going to cut $3 million and everything is flat going forward. We're cost neutral. But then if you wanted to dig into the details, 75% of our expenditures are salaries and benefits.
Understood.
And then we'd list, from there if you wanted the details. And so that's why we want to take a systematic, methodical process as it relates to identifying the opportunities, the cuts, understanding the programs. We've got new staff here, a new leadership team. And so with fresh perspective, we need to identify how this school district operates and then prioritize the needs versus our constraints.
I think
I was going to say, the question really becomes, do you want to preserve and grow the fund balance, or are you going to use that fund balance to operate programs as they are
Correct.
for the next several years, which you would not have been able to do if you would have taken that fund balance and used it to build
Correct.
Sullivan to begin with?
So
There
now
would
we have
been
more,
none.
exactly, we have more information now in terms of, all right, make some more assumptions. We're going to build that kindergarten building. We're going to have to operate it. There's some more expenditures there. What are our, income growth? What are the new constructions coming in? What is that going to bring in for income? So we have a little bit more information. Yes, 5 years out, the range is going to be big in terms of error and accuracy, but if we don't provide the direction to say this is where this is the line that we want to hold, then it's I don't know how you guys then do the
Well, that's essentially what we're proposing tonight,
Yeah.
is that we're going to come up with a 5-year projection, and usually there's multiple scenarios that we run with those projections. To remain cost neutral, that's what we're presenting tonight, is that we recommend we move forward with formulating a systematic approach to identifying cost reductions to keep it flat, even a slight increase, right?
Yep.
So all of that, those are hard, difficult conversations and discussions that we will have going forward.
And
here
that
in
will
the near
give
term.
us, the board, information as to what that trade-off is. Do we
Yeah.
want to use the fund, or
Yeah.
do we want to keep it neutral,
We
or do we want to give up this
anticipate
program?
bringing you options and priorities, as Sonali just started to mention, in tiers, starting as far away from the classroom as possible, and then, moving forward as needed, and so that you will have a complete, full list of options to discuss and debate. That's going to be our job as an administration, to present that to you.
Excellent.
I mean,
Thank
is it helpful to you if we discuss what the goals are in, as far as what we expect? What are we considering tier 1? What are we considering tier 2? What are, what's far enough away from the classroom that we can all kind of agree, yeah, that's a great place to start. What's not? I'm just I think I'm sort of wondering, and I have to assume the rest of the community is too, is how is this going to impact the students, which is really what we're here for. But when I see things like, 1-to-1 for K through 5, that might have been a goal at one point, but I think there may be a chance to reassess some goals here.
Right.
I know I'm only one voice, so I don't know how everybody else feels, but this may be our opportunity to say, this would be our goals going forward, and now what? Because if you bring us the plans first, I don't want to have you guys spin your wheels and we send you back to the drawing board going, oh, no, that's not the direction we were going in.
Could you give us an example of what you mean by the board providing the goals? Like no new programs, but sustain the current programs?
Something like that. I
thing?
think those types of conversations
That would
need to
be
happen,
helpful.
and I don't think it can happen just tonight. I think that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
conversation that has to be sort of ongoing for a while as we sit and process. But I do think that we need to come up with those goals. I think goals as far as, do we want to maintain the same student-teacher ratio? Do we want to maintain the same class size? Like, what's the goal? So obviously, I think we've talked a lot about that kind of stuff, but just to solidify it so that you guys don't come to us saying, here's the recommended places we hit, and then we go, oh, no. I don't want to waste anybody's time.
Kind of big picture stuff from the board.
Right.
Big picture goals.
Right.
Nothing specific yet.
Kind of
but-
like piggybacking on what you're saying, like, do we stick the fund balance underneath our mattress and not touch it, or do we touch it, or,
Our recommendation is that this is something we engage with our administrative team, where we've got subject matter experts internally that we've not really taken this problem on yet. It's our recommendation we work with them systematically and come up with alternatives for the board, at which point you may review them and then add to it or make comments.
I think it's imperative that the administrative leadership provide you with rationale for things. And again, I think perfect example is the 1-to-1 lease, something that we really want to go. It's $275,000
right.
a year. You add that into the pot. But the big picture, you would never be expected to know all the things that go into the big pot. That's not your role. It is our role to determine how many things are in that pot that maybe we could put off to the side, push it down the road, move it out. However, Abe was right earlier on. There isn't going to be much to do picking and choosing unless you get into personnel costs. And that's probably going to affect the classroom down the road. So that's where you're going to have to determine as board members what areas are there untouchable areas. Is class size able to inch up a bit? Are we comfortable with the numbers in the primary grades? Those kinds of things that there's a lot of pressure on.
Right. I mean, I don't want to be the bad guy. Although, you shouldn't sign up for the board if you don't want to be the bad guy.
Bad
but
girl.
I don't want to be the bad guy, but I'm not talking about anybody aiming to do massive reductions in force or anything like that. But when we're looking at everything and we're saying there's no sacred cow here, then are we looking at eliminating positions, turning something full-time into part-time, outsourcing things that could be outsourced so we're not paying benefits? Like, what are we looking at here? Because I hear what you're saying, you're definitely the experts, but we're the most unbiased parties in that type of a discussion, right? Like, we're unpaid volunteers. We have, you know, the sign in front of me says, our students are our first priority. So our staff is very important to us. And, you know, and when we look at our goals, if we don't want to make class sizes any larger or the ratios any different, that all comes into play. But that doesn't mean that there's no, you know, places that we can cut. I mean, I think those discussions need to be had.
Remember that the PowerPoint we did a couple of weeks ago, which was what if the referendum didn't pass? And there were some things on there that, you know, we hope don't happen. But Mark was just being honest there. We have to at least bring you all of the possibilities.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean we're recommending them, but you need to see if we do X,
Excuse me.
we will save this. If we
Right.
do X, we'll save that.
Right.
And that's our job. Then comes the fun part for the board. We have to.
We go away and you
but-
get the flag.
Just
Wheels up.
because we come to you with a list
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that we're recommending that, but we think you should have all of the options.
Oh, we
And
absolutely
that's
should
what
have
you're
all the
asking for,
options.
Jason.
I want to add something.
Jason's saying,
Right,
let us see everything.
right, and then you bring your community values
That's
into
fine.
play
If
and-
that's the order of operations, that's fine. I was just, you know, my idea of the order of operations was a little bit different, but
Okay.
I'm
It's good
just
that you
one
brought it
voice. I can defer to the other 6 voices.
And
I do it all the
I
time.
just
No,
want
there's 9 of us here, but.
Well, I meant like, you know.
I just want to add / suggest we've been over and over again about how we get revenue and how there's really not much of a way to increase our revenue other than you know CPI. We've gone to Vernon Hills, and whether it's gone anywhere now isn't going to be debated right now. But I think we need to be reaching out to Mundelein and Libertyville too, where we also get a significant amount of students from, to see if there's anything they can do to us. And I just want to compel everybody to keep reaching out to our legislators. You know, and hopefully that we can get some funding change, because until that happens, we are where we are. So, and there will be nothing but tough decisions. So,
You've hit on a great unknown. Right now, we're seeing in a month or two, we'll see a Democratic governor and supermajorities in both houses. And it's been a while since that has taken effect. The suburban systems like ours have been neglected in all the funding formula changes. And the EBF gave us what?
79%.
Yeah. Well, no, the amount of money actually.
not,
Well, they gave it and then they
Right.
took
and
it away.
I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody else received. I don't know if
think we got
anybody else
anybody.
received any political mail, but I received a lot, and it talked about education funding. So we need to be holding our elected
I
officials
agree. I agree.
responsible.
And that's an
to their
unknown
word, so-
source that potentially over the next couple of years we'll be able to see some results. That's why it's very difficult to project exactly what all our revenues are through savings, through additional resources, through outside affiliations with community organizations like villages, Mundelein, Vernon Hills, and such. We can conjecture on that, but we won't know for sure. There are some hard things that we do know for sure.
Yep.
And that we can see our numbers down the road. You can't even tell what your insurance premium increases are going to be from year to year.
Mhm.
It could be a good year and a bad year. It could really affect our financial standing. So there are a lot of pieces like that. We think we have the wherewithal to get you that list and those tiers, as Sonali mentioned, and give you something to dig into. And this isn't off the top of the head. We've been talking about this stuff. Joe and I have been talking about it with Abe since we've come in. And the what ifs kind of thing. So we'll work to do that kind of stuff, but ultimately it's going to be a decision. But we have to be prepared. This economy is either going to kill us with bids way beyond we expect when we bid out our projects, Or hopefully we'll be pleasantly surprised. But we have to be prepared for that too. We could ultimately not be able to do all we want to do.
So
That's another piece to add to the puzzle.
in terms of
And Julie, while it won't be as big of a list as the potential areas of saving, we wouldn't be doing our job either if we didn't look really aggressively at new revenue sources. And are we
Nope.
doing everything we can with grants and such?
Absolutely.
And we're talking to all of the prospective new superintendents who are probably watching this video or will watch this video as they prepare for their interviews.
Excuse me.
And their ideas, and somebody new coming in might have some ideas. Although Joe and I think we know it all, there may be somebody that has
Maybe.
some more ideas than we do. And so
you
there are
holding
a
out
lot
on
of
us?
fun-
But we'll get
down
started
the
on this
road.
right away, but as Abe said too, we have time. It's imperative that we get started and that we work
Yeah,
diligently.
that is a great message.
But we have time. This is not looming right over our heads. We have time to do it right.
So not a what if, but a when kindergarten building question. We had some loose commitment from the village in terms of funds that they would contribute. Would we be able to get those commitments, and when can we get them before we continue or with the kindergarten building?
I think tonight was an important milestone for everyone involved, knowing
Okay.
that the board is recommending we proceed with Sullivan Center. That was an important milestone. With that being said, I think we need to finalize the site plans, finalize the overall access road and what's involved. We do know that there was an early estimate on the site work being $500,000, equating to what would have been gifted by the village. That's the number we heard early on, with actual costs coming in around $1 million. We then have heard about $1 million perhaps from the village. So our
You ready to check now? Is that what I saw?
Get it in writing.
I think it was a post, so that's good enough. Now,
But we can get going on this.
those are the
with your
next steps.
commitment tonight.
Thank you.
those are the next steps, yes.
There was a post on Facebook by someone who committed to $1 million.
Will that hold up in court?
I don't know.
Was that an
Just saying
anonymous
it's out
donation?
there.
Just kidding.
An anonymous Facebook post too?
It was not
It's not
anonymous.
anonymous.
It held quite a lot of weight.
I had a
Took a
question
screenshot.
regarding, we have decided, our next step is we're going to go and finalize our construction documents, right? With incorporating our VN, the value engineering that we went through, all the itemized 69 points that we went through. Is there anything you need from us at the next meeting to proceed with that? Is there something that is coming, or is that all value? Because we had a huge discussion over it over
You
2
already
meetings.
did that, right?
Like, right, Mike? So all that is done. So is that now?
Well-
So do you need anything from us to move it forward, is my question, in the next meeting, to kind of get there?
The answer is no. Mike and I have gone through all of the old notes and the value engineering lists in great detail, and we feel we have everything we need. There were 2 outlying items that we have come to an agreement on, and it was related to the bracing of the storm shelter. We have clarified that.
HVAC thing,
And the
right?
HVAC, we have also made final decisions on that would also save money and would be cost savings. And with that, the next order of business would be for DLR to incorporate these VE items into the bid package, and then to be able to bid it out as soon as possible, because we know inflation is only going up with time, so sooner the better. And that would be our next step. And there's no further, action necessary at this point.
Okay, so the last time from what I remember, when DLR did their bid packaging, bid document, we had a meeting where I don't remember if it was an agenda item or it was an item where we agreed to send them out. There was an approval to send them out. Since we have only 2 meetings, I'm just trying to backtrack from January, so.
Yep, we have
you
a
know-
board policy as it relates to approving contracts, but not a specific board policy related to going out to bid. So
okay.
You don't need that.
we're okay to go out to bid.
Okay,
If
I
you
just
guys
wanted
are.
to make sure, because,
Glad
since we
you
have only
asked.
2 meetings, I want to make sure I'm backtracking on the dates from what I remember. Okay, so we are good with that. Any more questions regarding the post-referendum plan of action
Good
or
first
anything
discussion.
right now?
A really good first discussion. Thanks.
I'm good for tonight.
Okay, we're good for tonight. Abe, you have the floor for the levies.
Thank you very much again. Tonight is the final approval of the 2018 tax levy. There is also a public hearing on the business meeting side of the agenda. And again, this is an action item to approve the 2018 final tax levy. If you recall, we levied assuming CPI, a good factor to assume all of the new construction within our taxing district. We also levied assuming that the second referendum question would pass. And so it was a larger amount because of that. And at that point, I had also communicated that if it didn't pass, PTEL would kick in, the Property Tax Extension and Limitation Law. And with that, we are now capped at CPI, it being 2.1%. And we're also able to incorporate the new construction as well as it relates to the bid. Now, this is the prior year's extension. This is the same slide as I showed you the last time, with the blue being the levy request and the effective cap, our estimate for new construction being 0.9%. Overall, it would be about a 3% increase over the prior year's extension. And so it is our recommendation that we keep the levy as it was noted in the publication. And with that, are there any questions?
Put that slide back up.
Yeah, can you put that slide back up?
I can give you the Excel as well, Jason, if you want to do some calculations.
We're good.
You know,
Yeah,
we have time.
They have this number. How many
Like,
options would you like, Jason?
Abe, Abe, the publications that it's posted, Daily Herald, anywhere else? Or are we just required to post in one?
It was the Pioneer Press
Okay, Pioneer
that we were
Press.
required to post it on, and that was already posted.
Okay.
Yeah. The deadline predated the referendum election.
Okay.
So we had to get that in there.
So just to clarify, the last column there, the 2018 estimated cap extension of 44 odd million, that's what you think we would get based on the cap, right? So that equates to like a 3% increase over the existing levy of 42 million.
Mm-hmm.
So even though that's greater than CPI, that's due to the fact that there's new construction. So if someone's looking at this and they're doing the work, the math, yes,
A lot
it's
from
higher-
Cuneo Mansions, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
the new
it's higher
construction.
than CPI, 3% above what we have today, but that's because it's CPI on the existing stuff, plus we get something on the new construction, so that
That's a
would
good point,
explain-
Jason. So your typical homeowner, assuming no one appeals their taxes and that you're not picking up your neighbor who has appealed their taxes and you haven't, all of that set aside, typically it would increase by 2.1%. And the 0.9% we're applying to the new construction that's coming online within our taxing district.
It's a good clarification.
Thank you.
Good question.
Thank you. Anybody? Thanks, Abe. Yeah, we do.
Make sure we.
Yeah, we have it. Approval for resolution this later, right? Yeah.
We're good?
And the public hearing will be in the
You
public
have to
comment.
call for a public hearing when we
Yeah.
start this.
Yes.
That was just a recap.
Okay.
That's in the business meeting.
So we have the CEDOL minutes that were attached. Do we have to do anything with them? No. No, right? No.
We don't have to
Just
do
for your
anything
review.
information.
Just for our review.
Yeah, Renee's not here anyway. So.
Okay.
I did also let them know that we will not be at the meeting on the 28th since we have a superintendent interview that
Yeah.
evening. So I let Doris know immediately that we would not be there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Are you,
thanks.
you're getting them mailed directly to you, aren't
Yes,
you? The
yeah.
invitation for the meeting and the
Yes.
minutes?
Yes,
Okay.
because he's our
Because I'll
representative.
I get that copy too, and we
Yeah.
don't kill a lot of trees there.
President's report in the committee of the whole, the only thing I want to mention quickly is the SR report and the standings went out since our last meeting. All the parents should have received the district letter as well as the one pertaining to their school. All the letters are on the website. Thank you so much, Dr. Stein, for having put all the letters together. And congratulations to all the schools and all the teachers and all the staff for all the work in getting us the ratings. The cohort is really small, so that was something that had us worried, but It was really remarkable that we did great. The next is superintendent's report, but before that, we'd like to congratulate Julie for winning the Lake County Board seat. So she will be leaving us soon, so we are waiting for her.
Not clapping for that.
Thanks,
So you can go ahead.
So, do we want to talk about that a little bit? Or
Yes, let's do that. The board has a policy for replacing board members. Julie's seat, upon being seated as the newly elected representative on the county board on December 3rd, would automatically mean that Julie had to forfeit her seat on our Board of Education. However, Julie has graciously said she would be willing to work with the board to create a smooth exit. And considering we just went through the process of seating Vicky, and we have a pool of applicants for the board, we are able to make an announcement saying that we're going to fill this seat based on a date that we can agree with you, Julie. We can talk about that. And then the Board of Education could either accept additional applications or use the application pool that we already have and make an appointment. Now, the reason we feel a little pushed here are there's some dates. So Julie's seat, the person that takes Julie's seat will only be able to serve from when they start, sometime at the end of November, or 1st of December, until the election in April. It's a short term. And then that would be open as a 2-year seat. So that means somebody who is interested in running for a seat on the Board of Education could run for Julie's unexpired seat for 2 years. And there will also be 4-year seats at the same time. As a matter of fact, we had a little introductory meeting tonight, well done by Wes and by Matt, talking to potential board candidates. So, so from that perspective, we have all those things lined up. We can do whatever we're comfortable with. However, we have a huge decision coming down the pike, and that's the selection of a new superintendent. So the question also becomes, would it be beneficial to have Julie's expertise as a seated board member participate in that first round of interviews for the new superintendent? Or would it be better to try and place a new person before then? That's the kind of discussion we really have to go through here. And talking to Julie, she's only going to do what's best for the district.
And, whatever everybody decides is consensus, I will be more than happy to comply.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie.
The other possibility is that Julie does turn in her resignation and we move forward on the search for the superintendent with only 6 board members. That's another option, which has been done before. In many places, things do happen. So those are the things around the table.
Because this person, whichever way we go, this person being able to make all those dates is a big thing. We are not moving dates anymore.
No.
So
We're going to remind you of those dates again, and you're going to say, do we agree to all those dates?
But so that is also a big thing because there are about 7 dates that we are locked in on. So this person coming in, being able to make all these 7 dates every single time with whatever their commitments are is also, we have to remember that they might not be there and those dates are not movable right now as of.
I'm just gonna say, my preference is that she stay on for that selection, or we do it as a 6-member board.
Because
She still won't make it all the way to selection.
Right,
Six
but at least to
selections.
get through the first.
Well, if she can't make it through all of them, then
No.
And that's why my second
Why
would be
start?
just the 6 of us. I don't,
Yeah.
My
I don't-
instinct is just the 6. I don't really feel like it's a good idea to have somebody brand new come in and make such a humongous decision when they have spent 0 days working with a superintendent in this district.
Do we have that option?
Well, and also
Yeah,
though,
Mark said we do.
if
We have 45
but
days
what
to
about
fill her
the
seat.
So we don't fill
but
it
what about
until
the
we're done
para
with it.
training? Because the para training, so whoever takes Julie's seat
Right,
is
tell me
going to
about
have
that.
to immediately do that para training because they're not going to be able to vote on the superintendent contract. Isn't that how that was my understanding? Because
I'm
What
not
is it?
sure about that.
I think we had 90 days to complete the Open Meetings Act training, and then we had 1 year to complete the para unless we were going to vote on a superintendent contract. And then we had to go through
This
that.
That's the
circumstance
question
may
I
trump
raised.
that, yes.
Coming in. I've done one, haven't finished the second, and that's
Okay.
exactly what we had talked about. It's vague. I have to be honest with you. I've yet to see anything specifically in writing that tells
It's not
me
in our
that.
policy.
Well, and I just
Yeah.
remember when I took the training, it wasn't wasn't an issue for me, but I remember reading, or there was something about that second training that I didn't have a year and it had
Bobby,
something
could
to
you
do with
check with
superintendent.
ISB on that for us, please? Thanks.
I'll call him right now. Give us an answer, ISB.
So
So,
do we pick a date? No, I'm just
No, we
kidding.
didn't. We did not.
so if we go with 6, then that would mean we would not fill the seat until
Till
after we're
winter
done
break.
with our whole selection.
But we could fill a seat
You
and
could
not have
fill it
them.
and just not have the person be part of that process.
Yeah,
Can we prevent that?
I was gonna
A
say
seated
that.
Yeah, like,
position
how
from being
can-
part of that
I don't
process.
think you
That
can.
I don't
seem
think that.
like
I don't think you can.
Well,
If-
what,
if
you,
there- if-
what you can do is the person can participate in as many interviews as they can, but not vote.
How do we prevent them from voting?
Just say, we'd ask you to abstain.
But we can't
And if
guarantee
they
that
don't
they
want
will.
to,
Yeah,
No, well-
What
that's
if we
not
need a
something we can
tiebreaker?
force.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A seated.
I would
You need
hope
a
that people
tiebreaker,
wanting
then
to
you
be
don't-
Then
part
that's
of
not
it.
the
You're
right
not-
candidate.
You're not picking the right person.
Alright.
A seated board member has all the rights.
You don't want anyone coming in on a
Yeah.
4-3 vote.
It seemed like
Yeah, no.
those interested were all pretty open to
Right.
things.
I would
But
think you
I,
could just-
I hear your concern. I hear you, Robin. The 6-0, the 6 board members moving forward is fine. That's been done many times. It's been done with 5. That's the way the cards fall.
on this particular decision, I'm not worried about a 6-person vote. Normally, I don't like even numbers for these types of decisions, but on this one,
No,
I'm
I get
sure
you.
it's gonna be
It's a
unanimous.
consensus model.
It's either gonna be unanimous or it's gonna be
It's up
super
to
close to
you to make a
unanimous.
consensus, so,
No pressure.
yeah, pressure on the board president.
Yeah, so I personally, I don't know how the days work out with when Julie resigns versus when we fill it, but, I do think it's
okay,
probably
here
better
is
to
the
move
other
forward
thing,
with
the only
6.
thing to throw in this mix. I mean, we could seat somebody for Julie's seat come Jan 9th when we come back from vacation. I mean,
Mhm.
that can be done. We can have the interviews and stuff done before at some point and just seat them at that first
Right.
meeting in January. The thing is, this person that we appoint would want to pull a packet for that unexpired term, or the fact is if they want to, they still, I mean, I don't know, because the December 17th is the deadline for pulling a packet on petition. So do we at any point do it before so that once they are appointed, they are more inclined to pulling a packet? Because we did hear that in our interview process when we chose Vicky.
But I
Then
want to
some people said that
say
they-
this to Nellie. If somebody is going to pull a packet, they might not want my seat. They might want a 4-year term, but still want to fill my vacancy. So just because whoever we take doesn't mean they're going to fill my vacancy.
Right.
So they could want a 4-year term and not a 2. So I don't know that we look at that quite so much.
Right now, there's no option for a 2-year
Yep.
term. We have not declared a vacancy for a 2-year term because Julie's still on the board. That will kick in gear as soon as we go through the resignation process.
And can I interrupt the discussion for 1 second just to clarify to the community? That, because I had 2 people ask me today, actually. If you are interested in running for that 2-year term, unexpired from Julie's seat, it is a separate contest on the ballot.
Yes.
It is not whoever takes 5th for the 4-year term seats. It is not a consolation prize.
Yeah.
It is somebody who is interested in a 2-year term.
Yes.
Now, back to our regular scheduled discussion.
Isn't that something they have to check on their petition?
They would
too?
have to check
Yeah,
the
it's a check.
unexpired.
Because
box.
on the petition itself, it says 4-year term and an unexpired. So you
Right,
have to
you have
check
to
the
check the
box that
unexpired.
says unexpired.
Okay, I went to the IASB website, and they have a chart on the mandatory board member training, and we're okay with the para. It's only if it's a vote on a dismissal-based contract issue.
Okay,
It's not a hiring.
then we're fine.
So I've heard from me and Matt. Have we heard from anybody else as to how we want to proceed with or without this?
I
new
have a
person?
question. So if we appoint somebody, we have to vote that person in, correct? Like we did with
Yes.
Victoria. So we could
Swear
appoint,
them in,
right,
yes.
we could appoint, but we don't have to swear them in.
The earliest they could be sworn in is 12th of December, because there's a
December
meeting on
meeting.
26th and then 12th December. Those are only 2 meetings. Otherwise, it goes into Jan.
Okay, so we would be.
But if we vote on the 13th or 14th on who the superintendent's going to be, then what?
No, this person doesn't, I mean, I don't think, assuming that they could be, this would have to get done by the 26th itself for them to be part of that whole
Right,
process.
right.
Anything later than that, they are not part
Right,
of the
but we
process.
do have one more board meeting before that.
Huh?
We do have one more board meeting
Yeah,
before that.
we have a
26th.
meeting on the 26th.
Someone could be seated on the 26th.
Right.
All we are required to do is you, as board president, make an announcement that we're accepting applications. It isn't even required that there are interviews. We just have to say we're accepting applications. Then the board acts on who is interested.
But we don't say that until Julie officially resigns, or when do we say that?
Yeah, until
She
Julia,
has to
until
resign
Julie
first.
officially
By the 3rd.
resigns.
That's gotta be the
Yeah.
first step.
But right now, just having this discussion should generate those who might be interested in the seat.
Right.
They should start thinking, oh, maybe I ought to go pick up a petition and check the box. And when this happens, I will be in place for that. So we're actually giving a little bit of a warning here, but we're under no, specific pressure for Julie to resign today, tomorrow, next day, or
Right,
anything.
so she could
It doesn't-
resign December 1st or whatever that.
Yes.
Okay, let's work backwards. I mean, forget whoever is there being part of the process, because that is not happening unless we see this person on the 26th. And they might not be able to make all the 7 dates anyway. So when do we want to see this person? Let's work backwards from this. 9th of January, 9th, 10th, whatever the date, whatever that Monday is, comes back. That January, December 12th, or November 26th. Do we have a preference?
I still haven't heard from anybody other than me and Matt as to whether we want this person participating and voting
Right,
on
I
the
think-
superintendent.
okay,
I
I'm
think
still
the
waiting
first
for us to decide
decision is,
that.
do you have a consensus
Right.
on 6 people making the
Right, that's what I'm trying to figure out. And
Then we
then,
should go
right.
backward and figure out.
I'm not making that decision, so
Right.
I'm
No, I
not
know,
saying
I know.
anything.
So then we just go
Letting
No,
you
I
guys all
don't-
decide.
You're being very generous in just how you're working with the board to make this work, so.
Miss?
I think that this person should be, I'm okay with appointing this person, but I don't think this person should be sworn in until after we've made done the superintendent interviews.
So January.
You're comfortable with 6 board members
What
making the superintendent choice?
Yes.
Okay.
What is the date from when I resigned to where you have to seat?
45
Well, you
days.
have 45 days.
So then you can give it on December 3rd, the day you get
Right,
sworn
right,
in.
right. No, I'm just trying to do the math between December 3rd and January, whatever,
We're
to
good.
see when the last meeting you really could swear in was.
Probably the
So-
No,
last
but
meeting
we'd
in
probably do
January.
the
We would do it
choice,
earlier
choosing
than-
before, just appoint later.
Matt, how about you,
I'm fine with the 6th.
Jason?
My question is, what is the concern about a new board member participating?
My concern is, I think that the perspective that you have in interviewing and selecting a superintendent based upon experience of having worked with a superintendent can't be replaced by somebody who's never worked with a superintendent. Especially, if they've never worked with one in this district. Our district has a lot of unique challenges.
A lot of superintendents, too.
Yeah, right now. So I also would be concerned that somebody would come in specifically for the purpose of getting to select the superintendent and then not do anything come April. There's no way to force somebody to run for that term. But to give them a vote in the superintendent and then have them walk out the door seems highly inappropriate and unfair to the community. I think it's unfair to the staff. I'm not doing it to be sneaky and not give them a vote. I just
Understand.
think it's inappropriate to have somebody come in December 12th and vote on December 13th or
Well,
14th.
I agree that if they're not part of the interview, then they should not be part of the decision. But if she resigns tonight, tomorrow, and we appoint somebody on the 26th, that means they would be able to participate in all of the interviews and all of the,
If they're free all those days.
If
But
they're
they'll
free.
also miss out on the workshop.
Right.
which workshop?
That
The-
5 to 7 p.m.
Yeah.
workshop on the 26th.
Delivery of the candidates.
Okay, that's just presenting the candidates. I don't think that's that critical to say
But
here
aren't
are 6.
and
So-
please stop me if I'm wrong. Isn't that we're gonna get maybe like some guidance on
That's a
questions
very
to ask
important meeting.
and how to conduct ourselves in the interviews.
Yes.
Creating questions.
Okay.
How
That
to
can also
assess
be
the
presented after
candidates,
too. So I don't
how to reach
I don't think that
consensus.
hurdle is
That's
insurmountable.
not the deal breaker for me. I just really think even if they could make every single interview, I know in the 4 years I've been here, my perspective has changed immensely. So every month you're sitting in the seat and it ticks by and you have more experiences, it builds up to being able to ask different questions, think about different things. It doesn't mean they have nothing to offer from an interview process, but even interviewing, even if they come from the workforce and they've interviewed people over and over, it's still different when you're in a school system. It just, as we
Totally
see that all the
understood.
time with things like finance,
So
corporate finance doesn't translate to
If
school
we
finance.
find a candidate that happened to be a board member previously or worked in the district previously,
We're going to
Then that
clone
would be okay?
Vicky.
I'm serious
Did you
here.
notice I'm not saying anything?
Exactly. So the point is, but since
I know exactly what you're saying, Jason. There could be
Yeah.
someone with board experience who could come in understanding all the procedural
And so
things and
There
the
could be,
difference
but
between this person being starting next week and Vicky, I'm not picking on you, I'm just pointing it out is,
No.
she's been here, what, a month?
A matter of, yeah.
But she has
So-
a unique background that most
Okay,
candidates
so-
don't have.
If we find a candidate with that background, I'm just saying,
And if we don't, we've promised though that we're gonna appoint on the 26th. So what if one person applies and we don't get to choose? And now that's who's appointed on the 26th, and it's nobody with any background that is pertaining to this entire process.
Vicky?
those are unknowns.
I mean, once we leave it open, it's open.
but my position is I think this is a important enough decision.
Mhm.
It's one of the most important decisions
Yep.
that a board makes.
Absolutely.
Removing one voice, I think, reduces the thought that the board as a whole gains by having multiple members. I'm not uncomfortable going forward with 6. I'm just thinking having 7, having that extra viewpoint. I mean, just think about us 7. If you remove any one of us, we lose an important voice.
Absolutely, 100%.
And so I'm just, like.
I totally
ugh.
appreciate that. I think what I'm really, really concerned about is somebody coming in, they might even be able to say during the interview, yeah, hey, I'm totally gonna run for April. Not do it, they've come in, they've selected the superintendent, they're out of here in April, or they run and don't get elected in April. You've served 3 months and got a chance to choose a superintendent, that's huge. That's our main job.
That's no,
I-
I'm not picking on Vicky, but that's not much different than Vicky.
Plus
1 month.
We have to
You
take.
got
But-
1 month. That's the
But with
only
Vicky,
difference.
and this
okay?
is no offense, because I would have wanted you
Poor
anyway.
Vicky.
I'm sorry, Vicky.
No, I would have wanted Vicky anyway, but with the date that Jeff resigned, it put us into a different situation where we had no flexibility. So that wouldn't have been even an option. And at the time, it was an unknown as to whether Julie was going to be leaving us or not. So now that we know, differently, you might do differently. And so Jeff's resignation date didn't give us any flexibility around the superintendent search and whether we held back from appointing somebody or not.
I'm real hesitant to put an opinion out here for obvious
shouldn't be.
reasons.
No,
No.
you
I
have
like-
full rights and responsibilities.
But I do think there's something worth noting, and that's just what you're saying. The second candidate or opening, you can't control either.
There are just some things you cannot control. And so I don't know that you should really worry about that. Because what are you gonna do? It isn't gonna matter either way, you know what I'm saying?
What do you mean?
I mean, well, it's gonna matter either way, but what I'm saying is that you can't change the fact that you're leaving.
Right.
It's just what it is. To me, if you can find a suitable candidate, that's just another voice to listen to. And how can that be wrong? There's still 7 people on the board.
The whole process is a process of consensus.
Exactly.
I don't think one
It's not
person's gonna-
about
Excuse me.
favorite candidate or, who screwed up this question or something like that. It's about consensus, falls in the hands of the board president to bring everybody together in spite of differing opinions about candidates, because behind closed doors, you're not all going to like the same folks. And that's a tough thing. And that's where the board president is coached in the consensus building model in order to get to that point.
Snelly looks like she hasn't been coached.
She's quitting.
Her facial expressions.
I'm gonna coach. Where was that?
So, okay, let's pretend for 2 seconds that we appoint this new person November 26th. Between now and then, when are we getting together in closed session to discuss who we're choosing?
That's your biggest problem, because.
That's a
there
huge
aren't too many
problem. We have
dates.
Thanksgiving coming up.
No, 20.
free.
Okay,
On
here.
Thanksgiving?
If
If you don't want to go to your in-laws, just say so.
I'm hosting.
Oh,
I'll
shoot,
need a
that's even
break.
worse.
You can't, it's a holiday. You cannot conduct school business.
Her in-laws aren't watching this, it's okay.
No, I'm hosting.
Throw her under the bus. Okay, one of the things is there is no written policy. I mean, we can have Julie resign right now. We can have.
See ya.
Happy
Like-
birthday to you, Julie.
Like, we can have Bobby put it up tomorrow. We can close it on Sunday, So we keep it open only for a week. Exactly.
Okay.
a week.
Okay.
Then the 19th is conferences,
How many kids do you have?
3.
15 minutes each.
You can get those rescheduled. I'm just saying, it's
You
an
guys are
option.
out of your minds.
I'm sure the teachers will work with you. So 19, 20, 21st. Anybody traveling?
The 20th and 21st aren't school days. Are we allowed to conduct closed
Yeah, we
sessions
can.
on those days?
We can, as long as it's not a declared holiday.
Yeah, it's not. But is anybody traveling? Let's go with that first.
I am not traveling. I have family in from out of town, but I will have to ditch them if I have to.
Sorry.
Was there, by the way, you never voted on whether we're going forward with 6 people or not, so I'm still not clear on whether we're even aiming for this November 26th date.
You didn't give your 2 cents on the 6.
Sounded like Jason and Vicky would like another voice in the process. Sounded like me and Matt, maybe not so much. I don't recall what Wes said. Like, are we even aiming to get this done by November 26th or not, is my question, because I don't want to spin our wheels here.
And I'm abstaining unless it's a tie.
Right.
Good time to do that.
And if it's a tie, I still might abstain.
No, I'm not because Wes could go either way too. Wes is an either way person,
Are you an
right?
either way person?
Wes, are you an either way person?
Let's see how this works out on the dates.
Okay.
Again, you
having
do
a-
not
we
have
need
to
the-
assemble a pool of applicants. It is not required.
Is that appropriate for us to not open it up to a pool of applicants?
We think you should.
I
by
would
giving-
think so
I
too.
feel uncomfortable not opening
But
it up.
Yeah,
That's
we-
like-
one week,
open it
one week
One
is
week.
probably more than you need.
No,
to
No, that's
establish a
fine. I
pool
mean,
of
I
applicants.
just, I don't
It's
like.
not even a week. It would be tomorrow through Sunday. That's it.
It doesn't give you any real extra time because of the holidays and the conference. So all it does is gives time for people to get their applications into Bobby.
Right.
No. I absolutely think it needs to be posted, and we need to. have
Okay,
people
so here
involved.
is the thing. I'm looking at the dates.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the dates. After the 26th,
Mm-hmm.
we have no dates. I'm looking at the document that we did to get all of us in together for
Mhm.
all the dates that were booked in.
I've got all those dates here.
Yeah, I have. So between November 26th through December 17th,
Mm-hmm.
we have no dates to give.
I
So
thought we
either-
had 2 on hold that weren't definite.
Yeah, but I don't want to give those dates up because those are superintendent dates. I'm not giving those dates up.
13th and 14th?
Yeah, because,
What happen, you might need those.
yeah, because
We also had the
Monday.
17th on hold.
17th is the board meeting anyway.
Okay, what about the 18th, 19th, 20th?
So that is post the person, right? I think somebody was out of town also, right?
I'm out of town on the 19th, starting
Yeah.
on the 19th.
Okay.
Yeah, because if I remember, so it's either the 26th or we come back in January to do this thing. Because we have no dates to give between 26th and the 17th.
Like,
Can we just
still waiting for
vote?
people to say whether they want to move forward with 6 people or not. Like, I don't want to get frustrated, but I really don't feel like we should spin our wheels trying to find a date between now and Thanksgiving if that's not necessary.
So then why don't we just ask that direct question?
Yeah,
I
and
have
ask
I
the
think,
answer?
I think that's time,
But-
we can't keep dancing
Well,
around
Sonali
this.
needs to
We
answer
we need to
better.
move things
We have
along.
3.
Better vote.
But
I didn't hear you answer.
I didn't hear
Wes.
you
Need
answer.
an answer.
Sonali.
I said I was more comfortable with 6.
Okay. Sonali.
I'd go with 6.
So that's
Okay.
The 6 at the table.
That's
So then they get
That
appointed
gives you a
January 9th.
little less pressure about the dates and the structure and timeline for seating the new board member.
So if I understand it, I'm not resigning right now.
No.
You're not resigning.
Okay.
You don't need
No.
to.
You're
Okay.
stuck. All right.
All right.
Okay.
That you
Done?
So
understand,
you'll
right?
shoot for January?
So we'll
the,
shoot for
seating?
So we'll shoot for
January
January.
9th.
I'll be back on the 26th. Okay, just so we're clear.
Sorry, Julie.
That's okay.
So you can give your resignation on the 26th if you want, because that would give us
Or tonight.
Oopsie.
What?
It's like January
Is-
14th.
Do it at
No,
the
that's
14th?
25.
Is
Would be
January
our-
14th the meeting?
That would be our 45 day, I believe.
That's the 45 day.
We're just gonna double check the number of days. But that would be 45 day limit would be up if Julie's resignation took place December 1st. If
Okay.
it's December 3rd, we buy an extra couple days.
Yeah, we can have her give it.
I mean, I just have to submit a letter, right?
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, we'll just tell you the date. Okay. And sometime
That
after
works.
December 3rd? Sounds like?
Yeah, December 3rd, because that's the day she gets seated, so she has to automatically,
Oh.
so she can come in the morning and
Perfect.
give it.
Sound okay?
I'll send an email. Maybe.
Potentially,
Send her
I
a text.
don't wanna raise this other question, but potentially during winter break, you could do interviews.
I won't be here, but you
I'm
guys
gone.
can do that without me.
Well, forget that.
That didn't go over too
Yeah.
well.
yeah.
So in January, when is our meeting, by the way? Do you know?
Should be the 9th.
The 9th?
It's always
No.
that first Monday when we get back.
Or no, it's the 7th.
7th is the first Monday back.
So are we having a meeting on the 7th itself?
If that's the
I don't
second,
have it.
is that the second Monday of the
14th.
month?
No.
No.
Then it's not that.
14th.
Then-
14th.
Then there's no meeting the 7th.
14th.
14th, 28th.
14th. So if the meeting is on the 14th,
And that's
could
the
you
last
guys give me your calendar from the 7th through the 11th? When you get a chance, send it to me. So,
Do you want a
because-
doodle?
yes,
Okay, I'll do it. I'll send it
Yeah,
out.
that's the best way to do
Doodle.
things.
okay. So can you send it out? Because through 7th through the 11th, we'll have people for interviews and go from there.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that's that. Let's go.
That went smoothly.
Next, health, life, safety annual inspection.
Minutes on the referendum, half hour.
Thank you very much. The violations were less than previous years. For the most part, when you have 5,000 people in our district at any given time, things like TV carts in front of a door do happen, but we will work through this list to inform the main offices of these violations to rectify them so they don't happen again in the future. It was primarily door stops, a couple of door stops that were used, and a TV cart either in front of an electrical panel or in front of a door. But by and large, it was a good inspection.
There were a couple of things in there, which was the fire extinguishers were expired. That
Yes.
was,
Right.
that was the only thing to kind of.
Right. So they were in the green, so they were safe to use, except they were missed in the mobile units. Our fire extinguisher contractor that goes around checking and changing the tags missed those two, but they have since been rectified.
Okay.
I noticed that we had blocked electrical panels in 4 buildings. And I know that that's it's a fire code violation as well as an OSHA violation. Is there are people receiving proper training, or is there training that needs to be given so that we can avoid this in the future?
By and large, they were carts on wheels, and I think it just comes down to continuously informing and educating. Space is an issue, space is a concern,
Right.
and often these closets, these storage rooms where the electrical panels are, become the overflow area.
Sure.
And we work very hard to inform folks that we can't do that, and it's something that's on our radar to address. But by and large, for an entire school just to have one component identified, by and large, it wasn't as bad as in previous years. But you are right, it is not acceptable. We even put tape down in front of electrical panels to identify this is an area you can't park stuff. We do stuff like that.
Okay.
But we need to continue to work on that.
I asked because it took place at multiple buildings. And then the other question I have regarding the wooden door stops, was that because the door was propped open, or was it the actual door stop that was the violation?
Propped open.
Okay.
Usually, some people are hot and they want the airflow.
Sure.
And it's a violation though.
Either one of those items will give you the same deficiency. If they find the doorstop not being used, it's the same deficiency. You can't have them in the building.
Okay. Next is Abe, the parking lot update.
Very good.
Wait. Can I just say, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
So if we can't have the door stops in the building, why do we have them?
They seem to migrate into buildings.
Okay.
It's like mice.
They're smuggled in.
They multiply.
Have to start doing
Usually
pat
it's
downs.
like, when we had workshops, like that was the go-to person to make you some on the side. And the
Okay.
store stop black market. But we've minimized that.
I was unaware there was a market, but a black market. Okay. All right.
You see them in every school in
Sure.
the world. The teachers just like to have their doors open.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
You can use the dictionaries for that.
If
Don't
you-
give him any ideas.
So just a quick update on the parking lot with the library. If you recall, we don't have an IGA with the library. We will probably need one. We do have a memo, though, communicating that we'll have a shared cost as it relates to the additional space. Recent news is that the 21 additional parking spots was noted by the plan reviewer at the village, that it should possibly reflect 30 stalls. The 3 entities, the 4 including us, have agreed to meet, hopefully in the near term, within a week or two, to finalize this matter. It is our hope to keep it at the 21 additional parking spaces, thereby reducing our shared costs to $52,000 versus an additional $43,000 if the total went up. So this plan is $43,000 cheaper for us. If it accomplishes our needs and it meets the regulations, then that's what we're going to push for. The library and the park district are on board with that. Okay.
Great.
So just to recap for some of the people, we have an agreement that we would take 50% of this. This saves us money in actually building all the spaces that we would be required. We have an agreement with the library because we don't operate, our main parking is not at the same time. So this was going to be a shared agreement with them. They had asked us to build, the initial specs were for larger number, then it was smaller, and now it's back to larger number. And so we are trying to figure out where the numbers actually lie, because that relates to dollar amounts. So we're going to, like as Abe said, they're going to have a meeting with all the planning people involved to figure out where the spaces are actually falling into, just to give a recap of where things were going with this thing. Discussion item, we already discussed it. Do you want to discuss this again? Abe? Resolution regarding final amounts? No, right?
We did that. Yep.
We did that, right? So, okay. So,
Adjourn the committee of the whole. right.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole?
I move that we adjourn the committee of the whole.
Motion by Robin, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Robin, seconded by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed, 6 ayes, 0 nays. Jason left at 8:40.
Now
I call the meeting of, business meeting to order. And I have could I have a roll call, please?
Julie Simpson,
Here.
Victoria Halander Heiser.
Here.
Robin Cleek,
Here.
Wes Vaughn here, Matt Jacobs,
Here.
Sonali Patel.
Here. Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays. We are
No, that's
in,
roll call, 6 present,
oh, 6
1
present,
absent.
I
sorry.
thought I heard roll call.
6 present, 0 absent.
1 absent.
1 absent, sorry. Jason. We have a
public hearing.
public hearing for the 2018 tax levy. Anybody from the public wishes to comment on the tax levy? Going once, twice, gone,
Okay.
gone. We have consent agenda, which is board minutes from October 22nd, the special meeting minutes. These are for all our community engagement minutes, which was of an October 1st, October 9th, October 17th, October 25th, and October 26th. We have a personnel, we have a new hire for elementary school, no resignations or no leave of absences.
So I have a question. So is it better if I just approve or abstain or ask something to be pulled? I mean, what is the most efficient way, like, moving forward? Because, like, I would ask that the minutes from 10:9 be pulled. Now, do I need to, because I wasn't there, do I need to do that? I mean,
Because it's a
Abstain. Your best is to abstain.
but so I asked those to be pulled out so I can abstain from just those, right? Didn't know if there was
Still here, I think you better continue to do it that way, yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was a more
Yeah,
efficient
if-
way.
If you're not at a meeting where you weren't participating and the minutes come up for that meeting, you would abstain from that.
Then we kind of need to pull a bunch of them, because I
Yeah.
think we
That's
each
why I was
kind of
kind of
missed.
asking.
I think most of us missed like 1. So I missed 10:26. You missed 10:9. Matt missed 10:17.
So should we just do them all separately?
Yeah,
this
just
time?
do
Does that
them
make sense?
separate.
Okay,
Not a big
That'd be
So
quickest thing to
That's
do.
why I was asking, really.
okay, so let's do the consent agenda with board minutes of October 22nd and the
We
personnel.
got them.
Mhm.
Okay.
Those two, everybody,
So the board minutes of October 22nd and the personnel report. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the board minutes from October 22nd, 2018, and personnel
Where did it go?
items A through B.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Robin, seconded by Matt. Could I have a vote, please?
Julie Simpson,
Aye.
Victoria Halander Heiser, Robin Cleek,
Aye.
Wes Vaughn, aye, Matt Jacobs,
Aye.
Sonali Patel.
Aye. Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays. Next is special meeting minutes of October 1st. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the special meeting minutes of October 1st, 2018.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Robin, seconded by Matt. Can I do just all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain?
I was here on the first.
Vicky?
Okay, so Vicky, so 5 ayes, 1 abstention. Next is special meeting minutes of 10:09. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the special meeting minutes of October 9th, 2018.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion by Robin, seconded by Wes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions?
If that's the 9th, I've
Yeah.
seen.
Okay,
Abstention.
9.
Vicky.
Abstain.
So 5 ayes,
No, Julie
Nope.
abstained.
2,
2 abstentions. Okay, I didn't hear her.
4 eyes, 2
2 abstentions, which is Vicky
Vicky
and
and Julie.
Julie. Next is special meeting minutes of 10:17.
She's got the notes.
I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes, special meeting minutes for 10/17/18.
I second.
Motion by Wes, seconded by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Aye.
Matt?
Man.
So 5 ayes.
Aye, and
Come on, Matt.
Wait, abstention.
I
You voted
abstained,
twice.
yes.
Come
No, I did not vote twice.
You're not a rookie.
This is Illinois.
Voted
but-
aye twice. Voted aye twice.
It's a rookie mistake.
Do I, special meeting minutes of 10:25? Could I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approve the special meeting minutes for 10/25/18.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Wes, seconded by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? No. Motion passes.
Oh.
6 ayes, 0 nays. Special meeting minutes of 10:26. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approve the special meeting minutes for 10/26/18.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Wes, seconded by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
I abstain.
5 ayes, 1 abstention, which is Robin.
That does it.
That does it.
Down to action
That's
items.
official.
The action item. The action item is the approval of resolution regarding the final amounts necessary to be levied for the year 2018. Do I have a motion?
Do we have to read the whole resolution first, or no?
It's just this one,
Is
right?
it this one that came in the packet?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought, okay.
No.
Haha.
Cliff Notes version, please.
Gotcha.
Appreciated.
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution regarding final amounts necessary to be levied for the year 2018.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Robin, seconded by Vicky. Any discussion? No. Could I have a roll call, please?
Julie Simpson,
Aye.
Victoria Helander Heiser,
Aye.
Robin Cleek,
Aye.
Wes Pullen, aye. Matt Jacobs,
Aye.
Sonali Patel.
Aye. Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays. President reports. None. We've done the talking.
Thank you, Sonali.
Superintendent's report. This is the superintendent interviews, the finalist review, and the procedure.
We'll quickly go, since we already talked about those dates, we have your lives committed for the next 2 weeks or so. We are at the stage where there are approximately 40 applicants. Again, most probably watching this meeting tonight, getting an understanding of who you are and how our board acts. And on the 26th, in 2 weeks, BWP will be bringing to you a workshop with the names of the final candidates. Actually, screening interviews are taking place this Wednesday, but in a secret place so you can't spy and see who's walking in. So we want to keep this very confidential. And we have. So at that meeting, what we will determine is the process. They also determine whether there will be input from constituent groups or not. There's some pro and con in both. We'll talk through that at that meeting. You'll get an opportunity to craft questions or at least look at a series of sample questions to be able to pick from in order to create questions. You'll go through a process of consensus building, because that's really, as we said earlier, that's really going to be how this is actually determined in the end, through consensus. And we'll also see each candidate's profile. And in addition to the total profile from the district. So there's a document that combines the results of the survey and the results of the community engagement day, brings them both together with a new profile. And so you'll all individually get a book. It'll have information of a confidential nature on these candidates, personal information. You'll see letters of reference, transcripts in college, all those type things. And we ask that those be guarded very carefully because people are putting their careers on the line to be able to express interest in District 73. So that meeting on the 26th will take an hour and a half to 2 hours. So we'll try and bring something in and have some food along the way because it'll be a long night after with a regular meeting following. The first set of interviews will be on the 28th at 6 and 7:30, then on the 30th at 6 and 7:30, then on December 3rd at 6 and 7:30, and on December 7th, 6 and 7:30 if needed. think that's our carryover spare date, if, depending on weather and all kinds of other factors. Then moving down from the 6 finalists, maybe 7, that you're going to see, there'll be 2 dinner meetings with 2 finalists, one on the 10th and one on the 11th. And Bobby has made arrangements. Not easy to get a private room to have this kind of discussion at a place around the holiday season. We found that out. We started working on this a couple weeks ago. And you'd think in this area, there's so many restaurants, so many private rooms. Not the case, was it? Yeah, they.
Right, they have
Sorry
minimums.
about, we jumped the gun on Wildfire and sent you a save the date. They were way out of our range.
Enjoy McDonald's.
Yeah.
Gotta play
The
safe.
playground McDonald's or a regular McDonald's. So we did not commit to Wildfire, but we know they had private rooms, so we were hoping to hold that. Then on the 13th, as Sonali had indicated, a meeting to finalize a decision, and another reserve date on the 14th. So you have 2 extra dates built in. Very nice to be able to save those. I work with a lot of boards. If there's any snafu, they don't plan for it. So here, we're in good shape. So with weather being what it is in December, you just never know. So exciting time. You've jumped from the frying pan into the fire, a referendum, and a superintendent selection.
I have a question. You mentioned December 6th with 7th as a hold date. I thought we got rid of the 6th and it's just 7th because I thought
No,
Matt couldn't come on the
December
6th.
3rd. Did I say?
Right. I thought you said 3rd, 6th, 7th.
3rd and 7th.
Okay. Just to make sure I've got it correct.
Yes.
Yeah, 3rd and 7th.
Okay, cool.
How did you remember Matt couldn't come to that one?
Because
No,
I
it was a-
remember,
it was a
because I was
12th.
screwed up for the 4th and 5th, and I remember he was a 6th. That's why the whole week was getting skipped.
No, it's good. I know so
We were
many
just
things,
impressed that you were
Julie.
able to do this. you
So we
know?
have a few questions about, the cohorts or the people you had community engagements from. So those groups and what they said will be given to us on the 26th itself?
Mhm.
Okay.
In a combined profile.
Can I ask a question or two
Mhm.
about that? This desired profile, you're using a profile now to screen candidates.
Yeah.
Are you using the criteria then strictly from the interviews? I mean, the interview online?
More survey stuff.
I was a little concerned about that because we only had 500 responses to that survey.
It's a good response.
Well,
actually.
it is, but the majority of the respondents were
Teachers.
and that's fine. Obviously, we need to hear the teacher's voice, but it is a little disconcerting we didn't have more parents. So I'm curious as to how you developed a profile for screening based on the survey if we haven't had our focus groups yet. Can you just kind of talk
we've
us
had
through
the
that?
focus. We had the focus groups.
Okay,
Yeah.
can you then talk to us? Maybe that's the part I missed.
Mhm. I think we did that before you were sworn in.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did those focus groups look like? Parents, community
had
members?
PTO leaders, we had administrators, we had teacher leaders, teachers, we had support staff, we had each individual board member have a one-on-one interview. It was it's pretty conventional. It's pretty much what we use in all searches. So all of these subgroups, I probably missed somebody on that list. I had an opportunity to sit down in a setting somewhere in this room because it was a large group.
We
some
did
were
have an
smaller.
opportunity for community members to come.
Two
We
people
had
showed
open
up?
Two people
forum.
showed up,
Okay, so,
which is kind of a pickle.
yeah. Do you have a general idea of how many people overall were involved in those focus
About
groups?
probably 575.
575 in
Mhm.
addition to the 500 people that responded?
No,
Sorry.
total, combined. Mhm.
Okay. Also, I know there are 40 candidates and you're only going to be giving us 6, but will we also get some type of an aggregate summary? In
Yes.
other words, how many, but also where they were from, their experiential background and that sort of
We
thing?
sat down and showed Sonali a sample of the booklet that you're going to receive. There's a breakdown of candidates by job. There's a breakdown of location, where they're coming from, what state, what area. And so that's a demographic piece that will be included. So you'll get a good view of that.
And we'll get that on this
Yes,
workshop.
that's all
date,
part of
too.
it's all part of the package.
The reason I raised that point too is I just noticed when we were meeting with people during those referendum meetings, there was this little strain that came through about leadership. And that seems to, I don't want to say it's an overriding concern, but it's funny that it was repeated over and over and over again. So that aggregate summary is going to be hugely important when we have to talk to the community about why we chose the individual that we chose.
I've yet to see a profile not have that at the top. Because when you're looking for the leader of an organization such as a school district, and equality and attendance, and you can back me up on this, Joe, if you want, is leadership. So I expect that usually to be the number one thing that people look for.
Leadership and communication usually come out 1 and 2.
I will understand that, and it's just that I think we have to be very conscious of that and who these individuals are. Another question that kind of came up as well, or that just sort of crossed my mind as I looked at this, was we had talked about site visits briefly, and you had talked about how at least in our realm, we aren't interested in doing one. And yet, as I've looked at a lot of recent superintendent searches, I'm still seeing site visits as a really critical role in the selection process.
We just don't see it.
Well, here's the question I have. You did talk about using social media, and I think it would be helpful to all of us to know in what way are you utilizing social media in this process of screening candidates?
Are you asking that question now, or?
I
some
think
of this,
it would help us.
I'll have to be really honest. The purpose of the meeting is to answer all those kinds of questions.
Okay.
And the lead consultants will say it in their own words, but I'll answer that for you simply. And I think Joe has had enough experience with these things too. We can both answer that. There's extensive Google searching, Facebook review, those common social media pieces. That's where the initial information is obtained, or people are screened through those social media devices, or not devices, but social media pieces. So that's where the initial piece is, but that doesn't negate the old traditional reference checking.
I guess my concern is especially considering all of the issues going on in the district and all the things we just talked about prior to this section of the meeting in terms of what we have to address and what has to be accomplished. To not have an opportunity to talk to people in these candidates' districts, to actually sit down and have a face-to-face with these folks and get that sense of their response to me.
We'll talk that through in
this meeting.
In the meeting, yeah. That's a part of the process. I know everyone's anxious. What are we going to face? What are we going to see? It really becomes clear when all that information is disseminated to all the board members. That's why it's a 2-hour block of time. Chance to ask, why are these people, the ones you've selected? Because a lot of it is not scientific matches. It's about what their experiences and their backgrounds have given and prepared them for. And is that the right match here? Person X is maybe not the perfect match for here, but person Y may be, and they may have the exact same background. You know that, from your experiences.
Okay.
So I believe that 2 hours will be well spent. I don't want to speak for Ann and Glenn, but generally when people walk out, they feel, we really get this, we're on a road, and again, we're all available to help respond to any questions that arise. That's even better, and Joe and I are here. We're very experienced in doing this. So,
We're gonna have that training in here.
it's either in here or the small conference room. Whatever is easier. It's more intimate there.
Wherever you're more comfortable.
Just gets crowded in there.
And hot.
It does. It does.
Meanwhile, in here, I can't feel my fingers and toes. That's fine though.
Whatever you
Doesn't
prefer,
matter.
we could set up either.
Doesn't matter.
It's a little less to have the people you're working with, your consultants, sitting across and talking to you like a presentation takes away from the collegiality of the process. So it would be nicer to do it in the room.
We had a.
Or another room,
It's
if
okay.
possible.
You could do it in here,
Yeah.
just bring
Well,
some
yeah,
tables.
When we
we
do
had
the
our-
administrative
Yeah.
team meetings,
We'll have
we
the tables.
set
Yeah, we
tables
might
up
have
We
to
there.
have a
do that.
board meeting right after that.
Oh,
Yeah.
right,
That's right.
right.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding the process, procedures?
The key is the dates.
You got 'em.
We're there.
Don't even think about asking Sonali to change one now.
No. You're not changing.
We're hoping the weatherman doesn't force that.
Anything else?
No.
No? Nothing else?
Adjourn.
Adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Motion by, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Julie, seconded by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.